What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Gramercy Theater for the awesome Bad Wolves show that's about to happen, and we are here with Diamante. Thank you for your time.
Hey, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Congrats on the new record. It's officially out now for 4 days.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 4 days.
Yep. And the title of the record describes it perfectly for what it sounds like. You guys were definitely coming in hot with it.
Thank you, man.
How was the recording for it and everything been?
So I actually started writing and recording for this album all the way back in 2016. So it's been a long time. And, because I'm a solo artist, I didn't write with band members. Instead, what I did was I would go into a different session every single day with a brand new songwriter or producer. So that's why at the beginning it was a lot of trial and error, really finding the right people to work with and honing in on the right sound. And yeah, it was a long time, so the fact that it's finally out in the world is so crazy to me, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, being a solo artist, I'd imagine there is a lot of pressure because, you are pretty much in charge of everything, but it also has to be a little bit relieving that you kind of have a say in everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has its pros and cons. You really do get to be the leader of your own ship, but at the same time, it can get lonely, so a lot of the writing process for me was lonely at times, but, it's so worth it.
Well, loneliness can lead to a great subject matter for music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, being a lyricist as well, did you kind of have to listen to the music in order to come up with lyrics, or did you sometimes have a lyrical concept in mind and that determined the sound of the music?
It's different every time, especially depending who you work with. But, 80% of the time, I usually tend to start with lyrics first, or at least an idea or something to talk about. I like writing from personal experience. So, if I'm in a room with people, I like to talk about what I'm going through or, what's on my mind. And then from there, an idea forms. And I like writing to acoustic guitar first and doing lyric and melody, very basic. And then, building instrumentation and getting on the track and opening up the Pro Tools session. But it's hard for me to walk into a room and the song is already done and I have to write to it. I'd rather do lyrics and melody first.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's got to be interesting, though, because I hear a lot of people say, lyrics are last and that we have to hear the music first.
Yeah,
but it's really unique that kind of led to an outcome for the music.
Yeah, because, I'm a firm believer that if a song is great, it will sound just as good acoustic as it will full production.
Yeah. Now, did you have a preconceived idea with the making of this album, or did you kind of wing it and see where things took you?
Oh, I totally winged it. I mean...
That's a risk.
It is a risk. Because, I was 19 when I started writing, and I was really just trying to find myself and who I am as an artist and who I wanted to, put out into the world. And, in the back of my head, I've always loved 80s music. So that throwback feel and that, raw energy was something I always wanted. But it took a little bit of trying different things. And then, eventually everything really just started coming together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I also brought up to you before we started rolling that you also collaborated with Bad Wolves on Tommy's song Hear Me Now. It's a beautiful, beautiful song.
Thank you.
Did working with another band maybe kind of allow you to broaden your horizons a little bit with your own music?
Yeah, I mean, that collaboration happened way after the fact of me, writing and recording the album. But definitely, just working with new people in general really does, teach you things. I learned a lot about melody and lyric writing just from working with different people. And, that song with Bad Wolves, Hear Me Now, is very different from my stuff. So it's cool to also hear what I sound like in a more ballad type situation.
Of course. Now, this tour in particular, I would say, is really because, despite Bad Wolves having ballads like Hear Me Now and Zombie and whatever, they do have very heavy songs. From Ashes to New, just mark my words, they are the next Linkin Park, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then your music, is very diverse as well. I can see it appealing to metal fans and pop fans, so I'd imagine you see kind of a broad audience in the crowd, right?
Yeah, and that's what's so cool about this tour is that, even though our music is so different, it works somehow. As a live show, when I talk to the fans after, they're like, wow, this lineup was so cool, and I had so much fun seeing all the different bands.
Yeah. Now, one question I was curious is because I mentioned that your music, it's very diverse. It has pop elements, rock elements. Do you think you're on tour with you're at a rock and metal show, there's no questioning, but do you think that you have to be a metal fan to appreciate coming in hot?
No, absolutely not. That's what's so cool about this album is because I don't just listen to one kind of music. My whole life I grew up listening to rock and pop and alternative and even country. So I took all these different elements from all these different genres and kind of put it into this album. So it really is an album for everybody.
Absolutely. And I guarantee you're not going to be playing to the same people every tour.
You're hopefully just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. One question I'm really curious asking artists is, how do you know when a song is finished?
I would say it's a gut feeling, you know? It's like this feeling of completeness, like there's absolutely nothing more you could add to the song to make it better. And sometimes you even try to do that, you know, like maybe it needs this, and you realize, no, it didn't need that, you know? It's just a gut feeling, and I think, I don't know, it's not hard for me to know when a song is done, you know? I have a pretty good sense about that.
It just seems so pressuring, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I always heard like a song is complete when there's nothing left to take out or nothing left to add in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think lyrically too, it's like, did I say everything I wanted to say?
Yeah, of course. And going into that, because you mentioned before that these songs like are very personal to you as well. But if a fan were to say that this song helped me through a personal point in my life, but it's like nothing like to what you were expressing, does part of you feel a little differently about that song at that point?
You know what's funny is someone actually came up to me yesterday at the end of the show and said that War Cry really helped them because they had just gone through a breakup. And even though, you know, that song has nothing to do with romance or breakups or love, I was like, well, you know, War Cry helps me all the time because it talks about what I deal with, you know, and my personal battles and my personal demons. So even if War Cry could help someone else with their things, that still just tells you how powerful that song is. So no, it doesn't really change it. It just makes it more empowering.
Yeah. That's from Ashes to New up there, right?
Yeah.
Yep. They'll be down here in a sec. But no, because it's really funny because like what I was always curious about is like, you know, you're talking about yourself, your own personal experiences. Like, are you trying to express yourself more, or do you also kind of like to leave things open to interpretation?
Both, but one of the main things with this album that I really wanted to accomplish was putting myself out on the table as honestly as possible, because the music I had put out before was very fun and, you know, and rock and roll and in your face, but it was very one-dimensional and it only showed this small side of me. So I like putting things out there that make me feel vulnerable, and that's something that my producer Howard Benson really pushed me to do.
Oh, you can't go wrong with Howard Benson.
Yeah, he's like, you know, you need to write about the things that scare you and the things that you're afraid to write about, because that's what people feel every day, and that's how they're going to connect to your music.
Does writing about those things that scare you maybe not make you scared of them afterwards?
Yeah, it's super cathartic. I mean, when you really like look inside yourself and realize, wow, like I struggle with this and I struggle with this, and you lay it out on the table, it's easier to overcome them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that could really be inspiring fans to know that you were in a scary place, and then writing this music, maybe your music can really do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. I'm really excited.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. You know, Coming in Hot now is pretty old. It's 4 days old.
It's ancient, guys.
Yeah. But what can we be expecting after this tour with Bad Wolves and From Ashes to New?
So I actually get to go back out on the road with Bad Wolves on their tour with Five Finger Death Punch, Breaking Benjamin, and Nothing More.
That's an awesome bill.
Yeah, great bill to sing Hear Me Now, and that is going to be about like 2 months of a tour, so it's a long time. And then, you know, the goal is just to keep touring as much as possible to push the album, and hopefully Europe in the fall.
Hopefully.
That's like my dream.
You can't go wrong with Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks again so much.
Thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Everybody, we are here with Diamante. Be sure to pick up the new record, Coming in Hot. It is absolutely awesome, and we'll see you next time on Heavy New York.